Left to study at UCLA, LA City College, or San Francisco State, and later returned in 1953 with the death of Mr. Horton to become the company's artistic director, and then he began to choreograph for them also. A year later, he went to New York and studied with such people as Martha Graham for modern dance, Carol Shook for ballet, and Stella Adler for acting, among others, and later formed his own Alvin Ailey American Dance Company, which debuted in 1958 at the 92nd Street YMHA in New York City. So I'd like to introduce Mr. Alvin Ailey, who will then introduce the members of his company.
Thank you very much, Barry. All that stuff that he just said, you know that, right? And were a lot of you at the performances? Yes, sir. Yeah, so you know what we're about then. This is Mari Kajiwara, who not only is a wonderful dancer, but is also my assistant. Mari is my right hand and left arm. Mari, when I make a piece, I make it on in the hot of the moment, right? And the next day I don't remember what happened, you know, what I did that day. But Mari always remembers. She's taught a lot of my pieces. She knows all of my works, as well as the other works beside mine that she dances in the company's rep. And she has transferred my pieces, my even being there, to other companies. She did a fantastic job, for example, of transferring Memoria to the Royal Danish Ballet. It was a very interesting experience. Mari went over there. She was there for 3 weeks, right? 4 weeks, and with a videotape. And when I arrived there to see a rehearsal, I thought I was going to go to a studio. They took me to the stage and showed me the entire piece in costumes and makeup, and with every piece of movement intact. And I'll never forget that. It's a very rare talent. This is Keith McDaniel, who is one of the leading dancers of the company, a teacher, a choreographer, a very good singer, as a matter of fact. But he kind of denies that part of him now because he wants to dance at the moment. And this is Donna Wood, who is not only we don't have stars in our company, you know, I mean, everybody's a star. But the public kind of singles out certain individuals, and these three, including Donna, have kind of been singled out as very special personalities in the company. Donna not only dances with us, but she goes back to Dayton every now and then, which is where she's from, to dance for the local company when she's not in Vienna or in Hamburg, away from us, dancing with European companies as well, and guesting with the Viennese Opera Company and the Hamburg State Ballet and things like that. So, would you want to you want to ask questions? You want to start with me, or would you like to start with them? Who's going to be first? No questions? We didn't really come to give a lecture, you know. Yes, stand up. When we finished this residency on Friday, and we leave the next day for Boston, and we open in Boston on Tuesday for a week. And then this particular tour continues in different cities, sometimes 2 cities every week, until the end of April the 29th. So the next we're having a performance this afternoon at Inner City at 3 o'clock, a lecture demonstration where we're doing sort of bits and pieces in costumes. And then tomorrow evening at the Japanese Cultural Center, again, bits and pieces in costumes. And the workshop showings are here on Friday with what the company members have been doing with the members of the dance department. And then on Saturday we fly away. But I have a feeling that we're going to be back in January again. Have you more questions? Yes?
Will you be in San Francisco?
No, not this year. Next year. Not this year at all. He was asking when we were going to be in San Francisco, and I was saying that the tours take you in different parts at different times. We tour twice a year, in the spring and in the fall. This is the spring tour, so you can only do so many cities, in an area. We usually the usual time span is 2 years. You go to a city, you don't come back again for 2 years. But I think in the case here, if we can find another theater beside the Santa Monica Civic, we're going to be back again next year. Yes. I don't have a color policy. I just take dancers. It just happens that it's primarily black at the moment. I guess it always will be because I'm very involved being black myself with what happens to black dancers and what they're doing and all that, you know. So when I see a fine black dancer, I'm much more apt to snatch him or her than I am I mean, they all know that. I mean, a white or Oriental dancer, simply because I'm so involved with, what being black is, you know. But we have auditions, and if there are talented people, I mean, Mari has been with me for 10 years, and is, as I said, not only my assistant, but a choreographer in her own right, and a married lady with a husband who's also a choreographer, and when she gets a free moment, she's running around dancing with him. So she's a very busy lady. So no, there is no color problem in policy. It's just, if I find whoever can dance well is in this company. That's it.
And there's no quota on how many. I mean, I don't think we've ever consciously had any limit to how many people can be in, saying the company is becoming too white, too black, too yellow. I mean, it's changed a great deal over the years. I mean, we've had many, many more white people in the company than we have at the moment. We've had more yellow people in the company than we have at the moment, you know. So it changes. I mean, that's,
Of course, I've been accused of everything, mainly by the black groups. In the '60s, I had a lot of problems having a mixed company, you know, in the era when it was the black power thing, you know, and I had white and Asian people in my company that were saying, well, what are you doing with those people in there? Why should you have Japanese people in spirituals, and why should you have white people in blues, you know? And I said, listen, man, you know, black people can't sing, can't sing leader and play Moliere and all that, you know. I mean, what is this? Yeah. Huh? Who? Did they? No. I mean, they expect whatever it is that we bring to them, you know, and we never bring them that, so they don't expect it.
but it's very difficult when people give you the money. I mean, there is a tendency for you to fulfill their expectations. Some people giving us money are funding us because they believe we are a black company, so that they feel that they have the right to say, you're not black enough. I remember that was a complaint from, one quarter at one point. It's very difficult, I know Alvin's gotten it in the neck from everybody.
What was modern dance like for minorities before you became
Yeah, the modern dance has always been racially open. It's mainly the idea of black people in the classical ballet that disturbed, because I'm very upset that there are not more black people in classical companies, in spite of the fact that Arthur Mitchell has done a tremendous job in the last 10 years with showing people that black people can be classical. We still have very few blacks in the classical group. The modern dance was always integrated, because the modern dance itself is a mixture of so many things, of so many pieces of culture, that it's very difficult to deny the place of any person because of their color in a modern dance company. I mean, we do African movements, we do Irish movements, we do classical movements, we do postmodern movements, we do movements that are not invented yet. We're out there. So, it's the kind of company I want to have. Yeah. Can somebody ask Keith a question? Yes.
How did the dancers themselves personally respond to negative
Reviews.
in the papers or anything else? If you ever have a bad performance where the critics don't like the dance, how do the dancers respond themselves?
Keith?
Well, someone put in my mailbox today a review that said I was miscasted, or that it was miscasted for a certain piece that was choreographed on myself. So obviously to myself I have to say, well, that's their mistake in thinking that I was miscasted, because it was done on me, and so being done on me, it was something that they saw in me that they wanted to bring out, or maybe even challenge myself. So when bad reviews come out, it's a matter of, you can learn from them, and you take them and you use them, but you don't dwell in them, because if you listen to what every critic, every person tells you continuously, you forget what you have and your reason of what you're doing certain things for.
And taste varies. I said in that interview in the paper yesterday. I mean, the New York critics and the Los Angeles critics and the Chicago critics and the Boston critics all have their points of view. I mean, what do you do about that? I mean, some people say, oh God, Revelations is so old, why don't they stop doing that? You know, others say, well, you have to always do Revelations. You know, I say, well, we'll do it every now and then, as little as possible, you know, because it's an old dance. People on the East Coast love, I don't know. You know what I'm talking about. The critics just vary. I mean, some people love it, some people hate it, some people get into their music bag and say, well, the music isn't good enough. You know, it just depends on where their heads are, and we have to remember that all the time. I think that if as long as we're working as deeply and as honestly as we can, you know, with our material and doing as best we can, then we just have to press on, whether they like it or not. Donna? On the critics?
Basically, you said exactly what I was going to say. You can only dance the way that you dance, and unfortunately, it's just one person's opinion. You know, you can't stay and say you can't please everybody. So you just do the best that you can do, and that's it.
I thought the critics here were exceedingly vicious to the kids who from the dance department who danced with us. I mean, I didn't think that all that was necessary. I mean, they're obviously student dancers. They're not professionals. I mean, they had spent very little time learning this piece. I mean, they did it with great enthusiasm. I thought they were marvelous, and I thought they fit perfectly. And I mean, I didn't think it was necessary to say, well, you know, they don't look professional. I mean, you know, come on.
For our own class, personal class, usually we have a class right before performance. So we rehearse up until 6 o'clock in the evening. And if the performance starts at 8, then we have a class from, there you go, 6 to 7:15. Right now, basically ballet classes, but it does vary. Sometimes modern, Graham, or it doesn't, you know, it varies.
Horton.
Are there other questions? I saw hands. Yeah?
You know, what kind of training you all had to become
What kind of training? It's different for everyone. Mari?
Well, I started out with both ballet and modern, went to the High School of Performing Arts, studied at the Graham School, studied at the Joffrey School, studied at ABT, and studied with Norman Walker. I think Alvin likes dancers with a fairly broad background in dance.
Yeah, you have to be very, very. You have to have a lot of varied techniques in order to perform this company. The basis of which I find is classical ballet. Mostly, it's a rep company, so we have all kinds of choreographers coming in. The lingua franca of all of them seems to be the classic dance. I mean, everybody, even though the postmoderns talk in ballet terms, you know, we talk about pirouettes and tendus and arabesques and things like that. So that the modern dance seems to me already to have a kind of flow upstairs. So we concentrate a great deal on strengthening the legs and feet and making the placement right, the kind of classic thing. So we lean very heavily toward classic training.
I came in with the African American training and modern training. And when Alvin first took me in, he told me that the only way that he would keep me and also find a little place for myself was if I kept my training in ballet and basically stuck into a ballet training, which was very difficult for me because I did not know how to point my feet. So after, it was very hard also trying to change and work with different muscles. You know, you're doing this kind of thing, and he's asking you to stand up straight, and that was like totally out of the wall for me. But after, I've been in the company now for almost 6 years, so all that time, my body has changed into 2 different bodies since then. So now it's becoming a longer body as opposed to looking like heavyweight boxer.
Also, Keith was in our second company.
And third company.
You were in the third company?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
In contrast,
Yeah.
contrast to Keith, I came in with almost a pure classical background, and it's been taking me almost 10 years to break this all down. When you come in, you know, and he says, just relax, and I want to see your torso move, and don't hold your neck so straight, and I was like, are you kidding? You know, but it's, you have to have a very strong background when you come, but you also have to learn how to release it, how to let it go, and how to, you know, have a natural way of dancing, and keep that line, that format, so.
Yeah, Keith had the problem that all guys do in these days. I mean, we're just not those state schools where you start training to be as a dancer at 10. So most of the men who come in started taking classes at 17, 18, 19. You know, I myself didn't start doing modern dance classes until I was out of high school. You know, when the muscles and bones were already set. You know, and good God, did it hurt. You know, but it's something you have to want to do. But you guys, I mean, most men. Don't just because of what's going on with us culturally, don't to start early. And it's a big hang-up, you know, because you have to undo a lot of things, as these guys in the dance department know. Right? I'm talking to you. Him.
Steven.
Steven. It's tougher for a man, you know. I mean, you really have to get in there and work those muscles. A lot of them don't want to do those steps, especially the Graham steps.
And you're not only dealing with muscles, also you're dealing with a mental block. That someone is going to continuously look at you while you're on stage. You have that feeling, they think I'm a sissy, I'm in tights. They think this. I know they do. They have to think that. My legs are showing. And after a few years of dancing in gym shorts and sweatpants, they finally got me in tights. And so it's a head thing as well as the body change that you have to go through. Women are usually told you have to dance to be pretty and elegant, right? Sometimes, like Carol, we have a girl from England, a black girl from England. It's so strange to hear her talk. And she said that her father put her into dance class. So, you know, whose father put their son into dance class? It's kind of strange.
Well,
kid.
Peter Wooden, a boy who used to be in our company, who's no longer with our company, started into dance because he thought it was a wonderful way to get around women in leotards. So went over to Wellesley and started taking classes. All different paths.
Most of the men in your company, do they have a deep athletic background?
Yeah, a lot of them do. Yeah, I find that a lot of the guys who, I mean, because they started late, because they started dancing late, started out earlier in athletics. I did myself. I started playing football at Jefferson for about 2 weeks. After a couple of days in the field, I decided no contact sports, you know. So I got over to the gymnastics department and through FreeX found that FreeX connected very closely to dance and followed this young lady named Carmen Labatt out to Lester Horton's studio and was just smitten by what was going on there physically. It was so beyond athletics. It was using the muscles and the bones and the sinews and the fibers to express something, not just to compete. And that turned me on a lot. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
Personally, I try not to stick with one style. I mean, you have to be able to adapt from one to the other. However, each style helps the other style. So when you're trying, you know, it's a blending of everything. And the more round you are in all the movements, then it's going to be easier to, adapt to different styles. There's not one style that I feel most comfortable in. Some are freer, some are a little more restricting, but I like them all. I do.
I kind of feel the same way. I find myself comparing this movement to find an equal medium. And then also I was taught that dancing is somewhat of a mimicking of the choreographer, either his style, his ideas, or whatever story he wants, and that I would give more of what he would ask for and let him or her tone it down to what they want. So therefore the movement is still theirs and then it becomes mine. So no, there isn't really one style. Now there isn't one style. I could just say,
I'm starting to call what we do kind of fusion dancing. You know, like music is fused. It's a fusion of classical dance and ethnic dance and jazz, everything that's American. It's a kind of fusion technique, you know. Yeah, close to that, I think. Monsieur.
How old is Keith and when did you start dancing?
I was 16 when I started dancing. I'll be 27 at the end of this month.
How long did it take you to master dancing to feel comfortable?
I've been dancing 11 years, and I think I have about 20 more years before I master it. I don't think we ever really master dance, period.
And more general, saying how guys start when they're like 19 or 20, how long does it usually take for them to feel it?
It's according to their
How much drive you have. It's
Yeah.
according to your talent, your musicality, and really how hard you want to work. Martha Graham used to say that it took 10 years to make a dancer, you know, before you can see that inner landscape, which is the soul. But as all of us don't have 10 years, you know, to become a dancer. So if you want to dance, you get in there and do it. And it happens as it depends on how much you give to it. You know, if you give a lot to it, you get a lot back very quickly. So it depends very much on you.
Also has to do with what people need from you. I mean, sometimes there's a need for somebody and you get pushed a little bit faster than perhaps normal. I mean, if somebody is needed, somebody sees the potential, perhaps they will take them a little bit ahead of schedule and they'll catch up. I don't
That
think
happens
there's
all
any-
the time with men.
I don't
Men are
think there's
thrown on
really-
stage before they're really ready, usually, in the dance world.
Tell us a little bit about your choreographic process.
My process? I put on the music and I just dance. Huh?
You're on fire, obviously, making choreographed and
What? Well, I get it. I start with. I usually start with a very good piece of music. I mean, I find that. I mean, I've made dances to silence and dances to music concrete and music electronique and all kinds of music, you know. But I find that I like to have a strong musical base, you know. If the music bores me after a while, then I know the dance is going to bore me after a while, you know. I mean, though we sometimes can take any set of dance movements, I mean, combinations, that you can do them to any kind of music, and it can still have a kind of meaning. But I kind of marry my theme I try to marry the theme with a very good piece of music, and I go from there. I get into the studio with the dancers. I'm turned on by the dancers. I have my own ideas of what I want. The music is leading me. My theme is leading me. I walk into the theater, to a room with Mari, who has a wonderful facility, and I'm turned on by her, and I'm Keith and Donna. I mean, so I get it from within myself, from them, from the music, from poetry, from the streets, from everywhere. Yes.
Yes, I'm on the track team, and I thought, I read that you had a program for athletes or something, and most of us, we lift like really heavy weights.
Uh-huh.
You know, so the flexibility of most athletes is really limited.
Right.
I was wondering the program that you had.
We teach athletes the same thing that we teach in dance classes. We don't differentiate. Dancing, of course, is involved with stretching out the muscles as opposed to making clumps of muscles like weightlifting does. So we believe that, I mean, these dancers are as strong as weightlifters because of the training. I mean, the training is push-pull training. You know, you stretch a muscle this way and you stretch it back the other way. So the muscles gain elasticity as well as strength and line. You know, I mean, does that answer what you said? Yeah, it's just the regular dance training is wonderful for athletes. I mean, it stretches the Achilles, the feet, it strengthens all the inner muscles, the outer thing. You know, it's wonderful for athletes. I think if you do, have you been doing classes?
Yeah, well, no, not yet.
Well, you should. It'll prove your coordination, your appreciation of your body. It'll make you understand your extremities and where your running is coming from, or whatever sports you're interested in. You know, it'll make it a little bit more finite for you. It'll define what sets of muscles you're using. You know, we had a guy in the class yesterday who was what was Daryl?
Long jumper.
Daryl was a long jumper. I don't think he's here, but he made Keith break down all the phases of the long jump for him in terms of dance, and we could see that it's the first brush is like as you tell you brush from under your the bottom of your thigh, and you brush the movement forward and out. And you push off the back foot the way we do when we do jumps. It's just the principles are the same.
It's almost the thing that we went through with Daryl yesterday is almost the same thing as choreography. It's just where you place your weight and how you distribute it to go where you want it to go. And I think that's the same thing in mostly all sports. I started with track and swimming and basketball, and contact sport got to contact. So,
I'm a hurdler, and it's totally like a dance.
yes, definitely.
Precisely.
Definitely.
Precisely.
But also, I think it's something that's been happening in dance, for many years. The awareness of the body and what it is that makes it work well. And a long muscle and an elastic muscle is a muscle that's going to be able to keep on performing, whereas a muscle that is contracted violently suddenly becomes shorter and shorter unless it's lengthened. And those fibers themselves within the muscle become very locked, and it's easy to tear. And so I think just for longevity's sake, the dancer's training, the ballet class has changed drastically within the last 30 years. The bars are much longer. There's much more emphasis in fondus and plie and lengthening the muscles, whereas still in the Soviet Union, I think the classes that we saw in the Bolshoi really emphasized execution of things quickly, fast, immediately, and holding. And you can see it in their bodies, big, strong, muscled backs. But I think to some extent that shortens your career because the muscles do tear, they give.
We've also learned in the last 10 years or 25 years since I've been running a company and watching the dance techniques evolve, we have evolved out of as we learn more and more about what the body can do and what the stresses and strains are, what the dangers are of dance. We have learned how to we've taken out most of the Horton technique, for example, is a very vigorous technique, hard on the hamstrings, hard on the lower back. There were a lot of very difficult knee exercises and things we used to do in the 50s, which have kind of disappeared from the technique because we are so frightened about knees now. We know about the cartilages and the ligaments and all that, the things we didn't know then. So we do very few of those things of running and jumping up in the air and falling on the knees very swiftly. That used to be lingua franca. It was knee slides and all those things that are dangerous to cartilage. There are things like that throughout the techniques which kind of resolve themselves. We learn how to get that effect without causing the danger to the muscles. You know what I'm saying, Mara? Mm-hmm. Things just sort of naturally ease away when they get to be dangerous to the body. So it's constantly evolving.
Another thing, too, though, talking about what Alvin was saying, is that when you discover something that's dangerous for your body, you learn how to hold the weight in a different place, or you learn how to take the emphasis someplace else. If you know that you have to suddenly go down to the floor, you don't just go bang and hit your knees on the floor. You know that you have to hold it here so that you hit the floor very lightly, even though it looks the same. So you have to also learn where the real control and the center of the movement is coming from.
Wednesday night I was working to the performance, and I saw a central movement that you did. I don't know the name of it, I've forgotten it.
A duet?
There was a part they had together, dance they had.
A duet called treading, right?
Treading, right.
Yeah.
How strenuous was that for Keith? Because he did all the whole
Lifting me, right?
You put
Counterbalance.
me in a tight position.
If the choreography is set so that it's counterbalanced, then it works very well.
It's a thing that, again, we're dealing with placement of weight. We're also dealing with elements of floor and not just dealing with arm gestures and pressing dead weight. I'm working with a weight that's alive, that's moving with me and in personal contact continuously. There's no stress or strain at all. Except one part, but we won't get into that. But that's just because of what it is. It is. And it's a thing for me that it pulls things out. It's like a therapy class. There's a thing called Pilates, which is a therapy body conditioning. And this piece is somewhere in between and around there and also continuously dance. But it continuously pulls things away from each of us. We're using each other's weight, and we're using also each other's emotions, which makes it, for me, non-stressful. Well, you know the word I'm trying to... Thank you. Yeah.
Stressless.
Stressless.
Yeah.
Any stress or strain on you?
Dancers, do you find yourself unable to pursue other interests that you have?
Oh, yes.
Just falling by the wayside.
Yes. You want to talk about that? That's an important question.
I think that basically what we do is we sort of put it on hold. This is the way I look at it. We've decided to do this for the moment, and it doesn't mean that you have to stifle all your other talents or desires, but you have to sort of just, think about them and put them on hold. We are, for example, employed for the year. We work almost year-round. We do have a couple of vacation periods, but basically it is a full-time occupation that we are doing. And all of us that are here, this is what we have chosen to do, So we put our concentrated energy into this, and then maybe later you can...
And there is a very specific time for doing it. I mean, it's not, we can't come back to this when we're 50. So now is the time to do it, and it kind of precludes the other things.
Another thing.
Yes, sorry.
I was going to say, when we do have these layoff periods, like if we have collectively 6 weeks or 4 weeks off in the summertime, that is a time that we can use to do whatever we want. If you are not exhausted, if you don't want to just take a vacation, you can then go out and work with other artists or get involved in other things, but you know that is the time to do it. And when it's time to get back to work or to work with Alvin, then you just sort of put it back on hold.
Because like Alvin said earlier, originally I was a classical vocal major in high school and preparing to go to Oberlin College, hopefully to be this only black opera singer. Someone told me that I wouldn't be able to get a good professional established job until I was 28. So I said, okay, fine, I'll wait till I'm 28. Now I'm dancing a lot, but it's not the time. It's not the time right now.
You can sing when you're 50.
When I'm not.
This follows, I think, along what you were talking about. But I'd like you to, if you have a college degree, how did you feel about going to college and dancing in school? So you as a queer outlet would look at dancers with that more mature attitude, having been in college.
It's a question with me always. I'm looking for hot techniques, right? I mean, so if you have a degree, if getting the degree has taken those years, I want to marry the two. Sometimes, because you are doing it in an academic situation, you don't have the kind of training that allows you to compete in the as you should be using your body at the time when you should be doing. You know what I'm trying to say? That you spend, for example, as you say, the people who descend upon New York, who've come from non-academic, you know what I mean? So it does put you at a disadvantage in the thing. But it's not insurmountable. I mean, it depends again on how hard you work, with whom, see what it is physically. I don't know about the MA. I mean, I've had dancers in the company who have it. Mara, you want to talk about that?
Well, I grew up in New York, and I went to the SATs and da-da-da-da. And in New York, they have something called Regents. My family background, a natural thing to go to college. And so when I was, at that time, graduating Juilliard to go to some, and I made the decision that I didn't see the point to work with José Limón, and I didn't think I was a Limón dancer. It wasn't something on the outside. I think for myself, I was dancing with Glenn Tetley when I was 17. So basically, and I think, how old? So basically, those years that you're in college, we were all involved in question, academic dance. I think colleges which offer MFAs and BFAs in dance and whatnot, and a physical education department versus the fine arts department, say that if you go to, you participate in a university dance program, it's preparing you to be a professional dancer. I can't say that, I think that you have a chance of being a professional dancer. I think perhaps it would be best
in a city which is conducive to the kind of class studying you need to do.
Chicago, for myself, when I went to college to study for dance, and the feeling for dance that I had, they didn't give me, and felt that what they were showing was not important. One teacher, in matter of fact, at the college I went to told me when I danced in Chicago. And so that kind of teaching at certain colleges, and big questions like this. So going to New York that's where it is. It's there. And just going, I learned so much more, and there was my paper to do other works. I'm hoping that also my experience will help out.
2 more questions. Yes?
Oh, yeah, he
60, right.
Just prior to the use of videotape and all this, so it is
Usually, revolution is a combination of ballet and Afro-Cuban, Afro-American dances.
Right.
If you go about to recording, or is there a form of dance notation you have evolved to remember?
Bond notation. We try to come up with other systems, but we found finally that in rehearsal, through that we can transfer the steps from one generation of the dancers to the other. Has done revelations, you know. We don't have to teach revelations. We just pass it on from one to the other. 60.
Have you evolved a form of dance notation for Afro-Cuban, Afro-American dancers? Because ballet has its silent steps.
Labatt notation is that sophisticated, I believe. Isn't that so, Mari? I think Labatt notation notates ethnic. I mean, every kind of little shoulder impulse or
How
hip
successful
impulse,
is
or
another question, but
you
no,
know.
we don't. We haven't. To answer the question specifically, we don't use a specific notation for that. No, nor have we devised one. We just trust one body's body memory to another.
Because the devising the African dance notation for the talking drums presently is transferred to the right system.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Videotape is the answer for us at the moment. One more. Yes. Steve. Oh God, we don't have that much time, Steve. Awful, man, terrible. He's asking about funding and all that sort of stuff, the nasty question. We spend more of our time chasing funds to keep this together than we do in the studio trying to make dances. It's just horrendous. It's a terrible situation between we have a fundraising department which is constantly chasing the corporations and the foundations and the National Endowment and the City Arts Council and the State Arts Council. It's just a monumental task. It's overwhelming. We lose lots of money, $1 million a year or something like that. My mother can't understand it. Who's a nice lady from Los Angeles. She says, "You mean that you are busy losing $1 million a year with what you're doing?" I said, "Yes, mother." That's the way it is,
I know a lot of people look on the Ailey Company as the successful modern dance company, and that we don't worry about money, and that we have so much more money than X, Y, and Z company. I think it's just on a different level. It just means that our debt is higher, that people are willing to give us more money to lose more money. It's basically the same. We're very much in debt. Within the last 3 years, not only corporate funding, but because of the change in the tax laws, but the government, the NEA, the touring program has been done away with. New York State Arts Council just had its budget cut by 40% by Cuomo. It's bad times for the arts, funding in the arts. You know something we don't know, Stephen?
It's always going to be rough, but I think that being a part of that situation is sort of it helps with the creativity. You have to really know what you want to do before my board of directors allow me to spend any money doing it. For example, in the last rehearsal period where I wasn't even at the rehearsal, I was in Paris, but I got this call at 5 o'clock in the morning in Paris. John Butler, who was making a new piece for us, just suddenly decided that he had to have another change of costumes for the 12 people. I said, "Oh God!" That was not in the budget. There was a piece of scenery that's supposed to be in John Butler's ballet, a fly-in piece during one of the solos. That was not in the budget. The poor man is going crazy trying to conceive his works, and we're telling him, "No, you can't have another set of costumes because we don't have $8,000 it'll cost to do them." Or this piece of scenery is going to cost $3,000 by the time we have it made. We don't have it. What can we do? So you're called upon constantly to use your ingenuity to get by when you don't have any funds. That's part of the creative game. But I don't always like to make ballets in tights.
I know the kids in UCLA dance who did Memoria thought I was kidding when I said those costumes were made because we didn't have any money, but that's true. It's a leotard with tights pulled up. And it was very much we couldn't possibly come up with costumes for 45 people.
I think it's a quarter of, and you probably have other classes and things. Is there one more question? Yes. Yes.
We'll give you your first break.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. When am I going to open school in L.A.? Oh. As soon as the New York one is running in the way it should. One is learning constantly with the school. It's a tricky business, you know. It really has to be subsidized in order to do the kind of things we want to do. Finding the subsidy for a school also is a very difficult thing, you know. We have 115 classes a week in dance, and beside that there are workshops. There are 5,000 students regularly. There are 35 teachers. There are 30 musicians. There are 15 blind children. There's a workshop company. There's an apprentice company. There's this group of 30. So we're very busy in New York. I just can't speculate about when we might have a school in Los Angeles. It's a very interesting idea. I mean, I'd like to toss it around with somebody who has some money. But because we'd only want if you had a school, we'd only want to have the best teachers, you know. We'd farm in the best teachers from New York City, so that you'd be constantly getting an influx of new ideas. Who gave you my first break? What is a break? After high school, yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's a break. Lester Horton gave me a break because he treated me just like another human being. I said, well, you know, I came and take one class. And he said, well, come on in, you know, get in your sweatpants and get out on the floor and stretch. You know, that was a break. I mean, you know, having somebody who was in the arts treat me like a normal person, act like a normal person themselves, like it was nothing. You know, I mean, this is what we do here. Come on and do it with us. That was a break. It taught me a lot. Yes. I think Debbie's a big talent, a huge talent. We know Debbie very well from the East. I mean, she's danced in some of the companies that some of my people have danced in, with George Faison, for example, and comes from Washington, D.C. Debbie was very much a part of the New York dance musical comedy scene for a long time, and I have great respect for her work. Yes. What age are they? They're usually early 20s. Most of these people got involved with me in, you know, late teens, early 20s. Yes. Oh, that's a long story. I've told this story a lot. I had a landlady who had a friend who was a parapsychologist at Columbia who was blind. And she had a party once at her place, and the parapsychologist came and brought a lot of blind people, right? And there were all these people dancing and carrying on. I had no idea that they were blind, you know, but they were boogieing down. And so after they sat down and we started talking, I said, well, these people can't see, you know. So I thought, well, what difference does it make if you can see or not? I mean, if you can dance like that, you can go on out into space and do anything that you want. So that was the genesis of it. We really have to stop. Thank you very much.